All right, let's start with the big story that we are tracking on Wion at this hour, and this is the peace process in Afghanistan, where a day after the Taliban reached out to India, New Delhi has now responded to the peace process. India says that it understands America's keenness to withdraw from Afghanistan, but it's called for safeguarding the existing political and constitutional structure in the country. Now, New Delhi has also made it clear to the US peace negotiators with the Taliban, Zalmay Khalilzad, that India has clear security interests in Afghanistan. And also, according to official sources, India is against the idea of any interim governance arrangement in Afghanistan. And even though the Taliban has said that it is in favor of the Chabahar port being built with Indian assistance, New Delhi has said that the progress on the project will depend on how the peace talks with the Taliban continue and how the situation actually evolves. The sources have also said that India is working behind the scenes and is in touch with Moscow, Tehran, Beijing and all the Central Asian countries regarding the situation in Afghanistan. Now, inside Afghanistan, India is in touch with all other Afghan forces barring the Taliban. All right, now for more on this, we are joined in by my colleague Siddhant Sibal, who is joining us live from New Delhi. Good afternoon to you, Siddhant. Now, this is an interesting turn in the way the peace process is progressing. The Americans want Indians to get involved in a more active manner, and the Taliban, it appears, are also pretty keen to get India on board. But how is the Indian establishment on an official level responding to this?
Well, India, of course, has told Zalmay Khalilzad, who was here in New Delhi, that its economic and security interests are linked. And India talked about how India is involved in the country, in the landlocked country. India, of course, is building a lot of infrastructure projects. It's already built the Afghan parliament and, of course, the dam, the India-Afghanistan Friendship Dam. But India has assured that whatever the American policy might be when it comes to Afghanistan, New Delhi's interest should be taken on board, and India is not in favor of any interim administration. Remember, after the talks between the United States and Taliban, there are, of course, reports coming that they are chalking out a pact that can see American forces leave the country. But India has asked the American administration that a new interim administration should not take over Kabul when this peace pact is formally accepted. Because remember, one of the key points of this peace pact is of an interim administration. It seems that under the president of Afghanistan, Mr. Ghani, it seems sands are shifting rapidly. We have seen how there is a Moscow talk which is going to happen on Tuesday, in which all the opposition leaders in Afghanistan are invited, including Atmar, former NSA of Afghanistan, who had a public bickering with Mr. Ghani, Hamid Karzai and other leaders, as well as Taliban. So it seems that right now the Afghan government is standing alone, and the only country that is backing Afghanistan is India. And that is what New Delhi has made it clear to United States, that the present administration in Afghanistan should not be left alone in lurch, and the political and the constitutional structure which Afghanistan has arrived after 18 years of painstaking effort should not be destroyed because of this peace pact. This is something that New Delhi has made it clear to the Afghan envoy. Other than that, New Delhi is in touch with all the regional countries, whether it's China, Russia, or Tehran, or the Central Asian countries. Remember, in January itself, the External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj was in Samarkand, Uzbekistan, where the first Central Asia India-Afghanistan dialogue took place, where she met the Afghan foreign minister as well.
You know, in this context, Siddhant, it is interesting to point out that the last time when the peace talks were held in Moscow in the month of November, 2 Indian diplomats were present as observers, sharing the table with the Taliban. Are we now to understand that India, recognizing as to how the world powers are responding to the presence of Taliban, who have recognized and who want to do a deal with Taliban, would also be willing to, in fact, talk to the Taliban on an official level?
Well, as of now, the Indian policy is Afghan-owned, Afghan-led and Afghan-controlled peace process. But it doesn't seem to be happening, at least in Afghanistan, because the present Afghan government, it seems, to be not invited by either Moscow or either Washington in its talks. The last time the meet happened, the Moscow format of talk, it was the first format which was backed fully by Moscow, with the Russian foreign minister also participating, and India sending two former envoys, India's former envoy to Afghanistan Amar Sinha and former envoy to Pakistan TCA Raghavan to that talks, but at a non-official level. There have been comments in the month of January by, of course, the army chief, but India has made it officially clear that it will not talk to Taliban. But yes, India has confirmed that it is talking to every faction in Afghanistan, whether it's the Pakhtun leaders, whether it's the opposition, or whether it's Hamid Karzai also. I remember Hamid Karzai was in New Delhi last month. He talked to Wion also exclusively. So India is engaging with everyone. India knows it has economic interest there. India is the largest donor in Afghanistan, $3 billion in the last 18 years. So clearly, whatever happens in Afghanistan impacts directly with New Delhi. New Delhi is working behind the scenes. Yes, there have been no public comments other than the fact that it's Afghan-led peace process. It should be Afghan-led peace process. But India surely is making sure that its security interests are not jeopardized with this peace process, with the so-called peace process between Washington and Taliban and Moscow and Taliban.
Absolutely, indeed, Siddhant. Well, thank you very much indeed for joining us and getting us all those inputs on this very important story. It will be interesting to see as to how the peace process, in fact, develops. Now, for the time being, let's actually take a deeper look into this very complex and a tangled web of vested interest that is playing out in Afghanistan. In the midst of the ongoing dialogue, and as the Taliban and the United States try and inch closer towards a peace deal, Wion has in fact spoken exclusively to a spokesperson of the Taliban. Now, in this exclusive chat, the Taliban spokesperson Zabiullah Mujahid has said that his organization wants good relations with all of its neighboring countries, including India. Now, the Taliban spokesperson Zabiullah Mujahid also goes on to state that the Taliban will protect the Chabahar port, since the Taliban believes that it is going to be beneficial and will be in the interest of Afghanistan. Now, the Taliban spokesperson has told Wion that it wants India to play a healthy and also a positive role in Afghanistan based on the need of the Afghans. Now, Mujahid has further pointed out that that is the Taliban, will try and ensure the fundamental rights are guaranteed to all religious minorities, including the Hindus and the Sikhs living in Afghanistan. Now, this is a guarantee that is being given by a spokesperson of the Taliban. Now, Mujahid was also pretty positive about the Chabahar port and said that Taliban values all economic projects and is committed to supporting all projects that are fruitful to Afghanistan. And also, Wion has interacted with the Taliban spokesperson over the next few minutes. Let's actually break down that interaction bit by bit.
Do you think American forces will withdraw from Afghanistan? Also, when is your next meeting with the United States?
From the initial agreement that we reached with the United States, they seem to have shown readiness to leave Afghanistan and put an end to their occupation. A meeting to complete this process has been arranged for the 25th of February 2019.